Hello to everybody. And I'll just give a little, many people read the journal, some people may not have. I've been on a fabulous 6-week adventure, which served several functions. 2 years ago, I was supposed to be on a 6-week sabbatical, but the COVID phenomenon had me coming back 2 months earlier. That was after 10 years of being an abbot. Some friends were giving me a break. And so this was my rain check on the 2 months that got postponed. And I remember I'd said to Sunando and Nando, Ajahn Sunando and Nando, back in February, if India drops the quarantine requirement by March, I will go, even though March is hot. But if they drop it in April, I won't. It's just too hot. And of course, they dropped the quarantine requirement in April. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go. I'm going to go anyway. And actually, the sabbatical 2 years ago, I was going to be in Bodh Gaya in March and April. So it had been on my to-do list to practice in Bodh Gaya in all seasons. And it was, it functioned very nicely as several things. It functioned as being a break from an abbot and a teacher. It functioned as being able to have a nice creative challenge in the writing. So when I'm in the monastery, I don't have much available time and energy for creative projects like that because I've got other things on, other good things. But it's nice to have a break. Because they say a change is as good as a holiday. And but it was also at the same time rebooting my formal practice because when it's that hot, so just to give you an idea, waking up in the morning is 25 degrees Celsius already, and then it at 4:30 in the morning, and then it goes up 2 degrees every hour. So that mid-afternoon it's 42 Celsius and 44 on one day. That was where it peaked. But when it's like that, I was trying to do as much sitting meditation as possible. So I found that I needed to get 5 hours in before lunch, basically, and then have a big break because 39 or 40 is a bit difficult to meditate in. You just, when the outside weather is hotter than the human body temperature, it's, I don't know, you feel like you're in an oven, I guess. And, but yeah, in the evening by 7 or 8, it's getting down below human body temperature again. And but what is interesting is when there is, and I'll tell you an interesting story. Like it was 36 degrees in Thailand 3 days in a row back in March, and I had a chat with a couple of students. And in terms of longevity, we decided that sustainability of my abbot's practice, it's helpful if you can have a restful nap in the middle of the day, half an hour or 40 minutes, and then have a nice afternoon meditation. And if the room temperature in the room is about 25, that's just very nice. And 36 is a bit much. So we had installed air conditioning exactly 3 days before I went, just in the room where I meditate and rest. And then I'm asking myself, you've just installed air conditioning and you're going to Bodh Gaya when it's going to be 44. What are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, well, it's for my faith character type, I am capable of being more impressive in Bodh Gaya than I am in my kuti, unfortunately. And it's just interesting, isn't it? When you go somewhere where you can lift your faith, then yeah, what I discovered was if you have enough faith and determination, you definitely can make the mind peaceful when it's 39, 40, 41, 42. It's possible. And it was a great experience. So I was there for 4 weeks, and I added another 155 hours to my tally, aiming for 4,000, of course. 4,000 hours under the Bodhi tree. There's just 215 to go now. But I was also able to go to Vulture's Peak, Varanasi, the Deer Park, and then also to Nepal, Budanath and Patna and Bhaktapur. So I guess about 7 out of my 8 favorite places in the world. pretty good. And I'm grateful. A great change. It was a great press recharge, get inspired again. And so the Nepali adjunct was a surprise because according to plan A, I had to do a quarantine on my return to Thailand. And I didn't want to be stuck in a room without a balcony for a week. So my fabulous travel agent had found a hotel room with a balcony with a view of the Chao Phraya River in Bangkok. And it was a little bit expensive, but I thought, okay, some students were willing to help. And it would be a nice way to recover from time in Bodh Gaya, meditate on the balcony looking at the river. But it turned out while I was in Bodh Gaya, the Thai government dropped the quarantine requirements. And then so I had available days and available resources. And it also turned out that there was a flight from Calcutta to Kathmandu, which is just an hour and 20-minute flight. And so I was able to go to the place that makes, in my opinion, the most beautiful Buddhist art in the world. And really wonderful to stay in Lalitpur means the city of artists or artisans, and Patan is in Lalitpur. And there's a lot of Buddhists there. And then also I was invited to teach. I think Shraddha is right here on our screen with us. Yes, she is. I met Shraddha's mum and and her grandparents, very sweet grandparents. And I was invited to teach several groups. I don't know if people know this, but in the time of the Buddha, his kingdom was invaded, and he tried to stop the invasion a couple of times. And then he realized that it was the karma of the people there, and the invasion was going to occur. So since the Buddha's time, the people with the surname Shakya fled the Kapilavatthu area into Nepal and then settled into the Kathmandu Valley. So in this day and age, there are about 100,000 people in the Kathmandu Valley with the surname Shakya. So people who believe to have a bloodline connection with the Buddha's family. And so I was able to meet with several groups of them and discuss Buddhism with them. And it was a very interesting experience because quite opposite to my experience growing up, where they're completely surrounded in Buddhist customs and Buddhist iconography and Buddhist culture and Buddhist art. And they have some Theravada, some Vajrayana teachers, and they have, several Buddhas, male and female bodhisattvas and Hindu deities. But they admitted to me themselves that they did not really fully understand the most basic fundamental teachings. And it's just a very interesting, and then when I compare to my childhood, which was a spiritual wasteland, what I had for spirituality as a child was the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus. And I went to church twice, both times were weddings. And my parents had some bad experiences with religious institutions as children, and so they had made the decision that if their children wanted a religion, we could choose one ourselves once we were adults. So I had no exposure to religion as a child, and I definitely felt that something was missing. But because of this significant thing missing in my life, when I came to explore spirituality, I wanted to understand it from the perspective of, is it practical? Does it make sense? Does it make my life better? And so I did both practice and study, and was very fortunate because I found, I believe, what we would call the heartwood of Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths, the teachings on the four foundations of mindfulness, the sutras in the Theravada. And then I was also very fortunate in meeting people who I believe to be realized masters. And then later on, His Holiness the Dalai Lama as well. So I was very lucky that spiritually bereft childhood became a spiritually blessed adulthood. But it's almost like there was so much softwood and bark and leaves and flowers and not much heartwood. And for myself, in my life, there was no softwood, no bark, no flowers. But when I explored spirituality, I went straight for the heartwood. It's very interesting. And so it was my honor, of course, to meet these beautiful people, very good-hearted, warm, friendly people. And what I also noticed is It's unusual in the world for people who have deep and rich customs stretching back thousands of years to also have humility. And I really appreciated that. I really appreciated that the people who I met were both proud culturally and humble. They knew what they knew and they knew what they didn't know. And so I was invited to go back and teach again. So I probably will do that at some point. And so, yes, a little bit of where I've been for the last 6 or 7 weeks. And then, of course, I think you were seeing the pictures when we got back to the monastery the day after I arrived. We had the installation of our Buddha statue into our new hall under construction. So it hit the ground running. Today, I was calculating just how many bricks I need and what size bricks, because the bricks need to arrive. I have 12 workers here now working quite hard and fast, and they're going to need bricks in a few days. So back, no longer a spiritual warrior / travelogue writer. I'm a abbot who meditates with a building project. And Zoom meetings, here we are.